Hello all students, welcome back to the next module with which we will continue to understand the different attributes of tables. While creating tables, we use lot of attributes. So some of those attributes like creating using basic table, tr, th, all those tags we have covered in the previous module. In this module, we will focus on the remaining properties. We will see how we can actually split a particular column into more than n number of values. We'll see how we can split a particular row using the row span attribute, and we will also see how we can align our text within a particular table. In the previous module, if you remember, we drew a table in which we had columns and we had captured the data about the employee ID. We had a number of years of experience, and we also had the information about the designation. For the purpose of explaining you the call span, I'll be improvising the table that we have done in the previous module. So if you have already written that code, in that code what we will be doing, we'll do one additional column, we'll add one more column to understand how call span is used. And to explain you how call span is to be used, I am giving a name to this column as telephone number. Now you agree with me that a particular employee can have more than one telephone number. So what we need to do, we need to keep our information within this particular column, isn't it? But what we want is, we want to split this column into two parts so that the first telephone number can be published here and the second telephone number can be published here. So since we are playing with the column, we were doing the changes with the column, we will use the call span. So let's say Tim 001 had the number of years of experience as 15 and was a project manager and has two telephone numbers, and we want to accommodate this whole information in this cell. How we will do that? To do this, let's go back to the code which we had written in the previous module and achieve the desired result. Before I move to the previous code, remember students, what has happened? We have actually added one more heading. Do you agree with me? We have added one more heading. So what will be our first step? Our first step will be, we will add a th tag, okay, for the telephone number. And then what we will do, we will add another td. Remember, the number of rows are not changing in this, so we will not make any modifications to the tr. However, the columns are changing, we will provide it in the td column. So what we have done is, let's have a look. In the previous column, previous code that we had written, we will have to include another heading with the details of the contact details or maybe the telephone details. So I've got this th added here. You can see the highlighted code, right? That is the very first step. The second step is, because now the employee with the employee ID Tim 001 has two mobile numbers, I need to include his two mobile numbers also in this TD. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to provide two mobile numbers in the TD column. Okay, and I'll close the TD tag. Now remember, one particular heading we have to split it into two parts, isn't it? So we will use a attribute called as call span is equal to, within the quotes, because I want to split it into two, I will use the number 2. Does it make sense? I'm going to save my code and actually run the code to see if the changes are getting reflected. Perfect. So you see that now for this employee ID, we have got this column splitted into two parts, and in both the parts I have accommodated the mobile number. Let's say I also want to include his official desk number. It's not going to be difficult. I'm sure you can make it. Yes, what we will do, change the call span to 3 and make sure if you have changed it to 3, you need to have sufficient data for the columns also. So I will include another number. Save the code, run your application, execute your code, and here we go. So that is the application of call span. How do you actually split your columns into multiple columns, okay, using the call span. Now what I'm going to show you is how you use the row span. Okay, now in order to show you how we use the row span, let me first show you what is the intended result. What do we actually want? So let's say we want a table this time with the name of the employee, let's say, okay, and what we want is the telephone number or basically the contact details. But this time, rather than splitting this column into 2, I want to split this row into 2, populate the number here and populate the another number here. This is the desired result. So now we are splitting one row. So in this table, if you see, this is the TH or one row, and this is the second row. But this second row, I want to split it into 2 parts. So how do we achieve it? We will be achieving it using the row span attribute. And let's see how we use the row span attribute. So remember, a table tag is very important, and more important is to close any tag you are creating. Now in the table tag, if you remember, I have got a TR row, and in this row I'm going to quickly create a heading which is name, another heading which is the telephone, or the heading in this case is your employee name, isn't it? So we'll give Tim Johnny as the employee name. So what we have done, we have included both the headings. Now once this row is completed, make sure we have closed this row, and in the next row what we will be doing, we will be giving the TR tag to start this row, closing this TR tag, and here what we will be doing is we will give another heading. Now let's use the row span tag later on to see. We'll do just this, and then we'll give the contact details or telephone and basically close this particular heading that we have created. Okay, and in this one, once we have created the TR and created the TH, we will give a information which is the mobile number of this employee and close the TD tag. Okay, make sure the code is aligned. And now what we'll do, create another row, and in this row we will give another TD in which we have included the information. So what we have got is, we have got a table tag, then we have got a TH in which we have got the name and the name of the person. We have got another TR which is standing. Now this one we want to divide it into 2 parts. So what I'm going to do is, in this TH I'm going to give row span is equal to 2 contact details, give 1 TD, close this particular TR tag and start another TR tag. Now if I save this code and I run my or execute the code that I've written, let me just delete this table for now. Here we go. So you can see that name and Tim Johnny is written, and the contact details row is divided into 2 using the row span. Let me just quickly introduce the border to make it more clear what is happening. We'll be using the border attribute. We have learned this in the previous module, and I'm giving a value 1 to the thickness of the border. Now what I'm going to do is, refresh this page, and you can see the result. So what has basically happened, the row that we had, which is the second row, has got splitted into two parts using the tag that we've used, row span is equal to 2. Similarly, if you want this information to be split into 3, you will be using row span is equal to 3, and as we discussed before, make sure you have provided the information in the TD. So what we will be looking at next is, we will be looking at on this particular page, if I want to actually align my text to a specific position. Let's say I want to align the text to the left, center or right. How we can do that? What we will do for that, since we want to align the column, we will be using the attribute style, and we will be using another attribute called as text align. Give a value as to where we want to align our text. So let's say if I want to align my text to the left hand side, I'll select left and I will close this particular quotes. Once this is done, what we'll do is we will run the code to see the change, if it has got reflected. So let's open the code that we have written and the output window side by side. So what we have actually wanted to do was, we wanted to achieve that the mobile number of Tim Johnny should be on the left hand side. So we have done that using the left text align. How about changing it to right? If we click on right and save our code and refresh, you can see that the mobile number has shifted to the right hand side. There is another attribute called as center, which you can use. So if you select the value as center and refresh, you can see that the value has actually been brought to the left hand side. So wherever in the column we want to align your text, we will be using style is equal to text align center. So in this module, we have looked at how we can use the column span to split a column into more than one part. We have looked at the row span to see how we can split a row into more than one part. And we have also looked at how we can align our text within a table to the center, left or right position. Stay tuned for the next module in which we will be learning more concepts of HTML. Goodbye for now.